Alright, response video to Joe. Don't really know where to go with this one, so this will not be a brilliant video. I mean, I thought my last one sort of said it all, and I don't think it really responded to those core issues, which are that this thing you call the monetary system is not the economic system, and the economic system will do its own thing in spite of your reform, your change. But your change is a minor part of the whole economy, and it's the whole economy that is dysfunctional. The concept of interest on ownership will remain. You've even advocated, defended it, and said, well, if the unions have a pile of money, they're entitled to a profit on their surplus. And no, they're not. You're entitled to get paid when you do productive work. You're not entitled to get paid merely for possessing commodities. And as soon as you think you are creating inflation. And the other part of it is, I think we have to account for the fact that what we have essentially done is written a whole bunch of IOUs for future commodities. Both production and a worker's capacity to produce. Those things have been mortgaged, and those IOUs are being negotiated in a world where there's a smaller pool of stuff. So it's like it's like you've introduced it. The world makes sense when you have a house and you have a deed for a house. The world doesn't make sense when you throw in a deed to a future house, a deed to future work. Now once those things get thrown in to the economy, then it becomes quite ludicrous. Then the value of everything is distorted and perverted, because those things aren't real stuff anymore. Now we're not trading real things anymore. We're trading something make-believe. And when you're collecting interest on make-believe stuff, make-believe value, worth, however we want it, equity, when that's counted as part of your equity, and then that interest rate of 7% becomes even more exaggerated, because if the equity you're getting the 7% on is 80% made up of some future stuff, you're really getting an interest rate of 30%, because the only real value was 20%. And so I think you can understand what I just said there, is that by inflating the actual value, the interest is compounded, and that's basically why this is an impossible circumstance, because we're not paying a manageable interest rate. We're actually paying a very high and preposterous interest rate on real value. All right, I've said it before, but I don't. The government shouldn't borrow money, but the banking system hasn't even theoretically. I mean, you'd have to explain exactly how, when it creates the money, you have to create a money trail. And I just don't see it. I mean, the government can create dollars. The rest of the games played really aren't dollars. There really isn't money. I mean, these M1, M5, and whatever numbers, they're not really talking about money. They're talking about other deeds, where we have monetized, established a price for, and a deed for all the commodities that have been created in the history of Americans, let's say, if it's American money supply. So it's just monetizing stuff, and of course this amount of stuff will grow over time. It just seems inevitable with population growth. I mean, once population growth is stable, then yeah, that number could become stable. But yeah, it's going to grow, and so it's going to appear as if there's some sort of production when there really isn't. I mean, it's just what happens when you have more people. All right, so where else do we go with this? Yeah, I just the whole idea of redefining these words. So now you say currency is just part of money. Well, now, then why use the word money? We have to come up with a different word, because when people hear the word money, they don't think bar of gold, or I don't even think they might think that, but they certainly don't think the things you're describing as money. The reserves, or this or that, all these certificates of deposit or some other kind of crap. So I think you have to use some other word. I mean, by your definition, is the United States bond money? I guess by my definition it would be. It's a note. It's negotiable. It's tradable. So it's money. It's created a little differently in that you just can't print it and buy something with it. Instead you have to. Well, you do buy something with it. You buy cash with it. You buy money with it. As strange as that sounds, right? I mean, is money? Is a bond a deed for money, or is money a deed? It's a weird kind of deed. It's just created out of nothing. The bond. It's sold as a deed. I mean, as an IOU. But there was never any. It was never collateralized in the sense that it was. I mean, that's real printed money in a sense. A bond. And it's even worse that we're paying interest on money that was basically just printed. I mean, unless we just print the money itself. And that would be my argument, that yes, compared to borrowing money, printing money makes more sense. But all this, I don't think you did a very good job in one of your coffee videos explaining why there would be no change in interest rates if you eliminate fractional reserve banking, because it seems there would be a supply-demand problem there. Because fractional reserve banking isn't the $400 billion you're talking about is financing $40 billion worth of economic activity by using it by putting the money through the banks. So in the economy, $400 billion is going to be a lot more than $40 billion or $4 trillion. So I guess, all right. So yeah, if we say there's $400 billion, which is a high number. I mean, we've only been doing this $400 billion a year thing for the last couple of years in terms of printing or introducing new money. Damn, I'm going to go over time. All right, well, part 2 will be on the website. Hell with it. Yeah, but the point is that's reserve money. So there's a factor of 10 piled on top of that. So if you introduce the money some other way in the economy, it's going to have 1/10 the value, because it's not going to be financing that that borrowing. So it's not going to be interest rates would have to go up. So there would have to be less supply. There'd be less supply for money to be borrowed. It's not going to just. I don't know how to get this to the root of this thing. I understand the concept you're saying, where you're saying if the money is in the economy in some other way, it's going to end up back in a bank anyway. But it's not. It's going to end up in another. It's in one of those stock certificates or some other stupid thing that has no real value, where its whole value is based on some future promise. So it's not going to be end up. There's not going to be that correlation where no matter where the money is in the economy, it's going to end up back in the bank and therefore available to be lent. And what I'm saying, without the multiplying effect, that $400 billion is going to have 1/10 the real impact. So there's going to be a huge decrease in money available to be lent, and therefore there's going to be a higher premium paid for the lending. And then there's the whole consequence of the fact that this money isn't, the federal government right now is not really, it's not just printed money. It's collateralized money. And what's happened is that the amount of reserves has increased. The amount of money banks have to have in reserve has increased with the growth in the stock market type economy, in this economy that's now including the value of all those future IOUs as real value. So they're being counted as real assets, as if they really existed. And so now the banks have total assets, I mean checks and value in them, certificates or whatever you want to call it. The total value of all deeds and certificates is this huge big thing. And so the reserve number for that huge big thing